As we work our way through this method, I'm going to go back one slide so that we can consult this. So let's jump in. So we need to change add last so that it can handle the array getting too big. So we'll have a little special case here, and we'll say if, size equals items.length. Okay, it's good to have that very concretely in our mind. Then we need to do a few things. First, we need to create a new array, which I'll call A. And it's going to be a new int array, which is going to be of size plus 1. All right, so there we go. Then what we're going to do is copy everything over. You could also use a loop if you wanted, but I'm going to copy everything over using system.arrayCopy. What should we do? Well, we need to copy from the old items array, starting at position 0, to the new array A, starting at position 0. And then finally, we need to say how many items, and it's going to be size items. So there are 100 things we need to copy. Now you'll notice that IntelliJ here has helpfully told us what the source and destination positions are. That could be, in theory, handy, though the coloring I have set up is pretty impossible to read. Oh well. All right, next up. We've now copied the items over. So at this point, we now need to change items to be equal to A. And then size plus equals 1. All this stuff happens down here. So this will handle putting the new item in the last position, and this will increase the size. So these last two steps, these two steps here were already part of our code. Okay. So at this point, we now have an add last method that should work properly. Now in the real world, if I was doing any real programming at all, I would run some kind of tests. In fact, I have this entire test file, but because we haven't really talked about it, we will next lecture. I'm not going to run it now, but what I want to warn you is that the way I've been programming in this lecture is in some ways a bad example, because I've been writing giant blobs of code without doing any testing, and if you do the same thing on Project 1A, you'll probably have a sad time. So I'll give you some tips in the next lecture about better incremental development, but for the purposes of this lecture, for this narrative, for something that I've practiced time and time again, chances are I probably haven't messed up anything too severely. But if I do, then I guess I'll get to re-record one of these videos. All right. So this right here is a perfectly wonderful add last method, though I'm going to make one change to this to make my code a little nicer and more organized. So specifically, I'm going to note that this whole process here, this resizing process, could actually be made into its own method. So I'm going to do that because I just think it is nicer. Okay, so I'm going to say resizes the underlying array to the target capacity. That's what it's going to look like. And that's going to be a private void method called resize. It takes a capacity argument. And this code's all going to do the resizing. Now, instead of being size plus 1, this version is going to resize to some arbitrary capacity, just a little nicer. And that's it. Okay, so I now made a resize method. And so here, when I run out of room, oops, I messed up slightly. This if statement should not be inside resize. We're going to move it in and add last. So if the size is equal to items.length, then we will say resize to size plus 1. Okay, that's just the way I've chosen to organize my code. You may disagree. Okay. So at this point, we've now written an add last method. We have a resize method that keeps things going. Let's fix our indentation. We could use the IntelliJ shortcut, but I did it manually. And there we go. We now have code that adds to the array, and now the array is infinitely extensible. It actually does the thing it's supposed to do. Hooray. So let's debrief this code a little bit. So our add last method, we said if size is equal to items.length, do all this stuff. Though we showed that an alternate approach is to say if the size is equal to items.length, then use a special resize function. Now, why would this be better? This is something that you could actually test separately. You could write tests, you could use the visualizer to actually look and see what it's doing. And by breaking your code into little tiny pieces, it just makes it much easier to maintain, to understand. This is easier to read as another programmer who wants to maintain the A-list class. So I think this approach is better, but you might have done something like this. After you've done Project 1A, we're actually going to have a little thing in lab where we'll let you discuss implementations with each other, and hopefully you can find other little tricks like that that you might have missed or others might have come up with.